Welcome back on the AM show. It's time now for us to have a conversation on child malnutrition. Now, I know the World Health Organization says that malnutrition is the single most important health risk to the world health. And to join us in the studio today to have a conversation on pediatric malnutrition is Dr. Hilda Mantebia Boy, who is a pediatrician at Kolebu Teaching Hospital. She's also the president of Pediatric Society of Ghana. She's here to help us get in-depth analysis and insights into malnutrition when it comes to children. Welcome to the AM show. You're looking beautiful this morning.
Thank you, Susie. You're looking great
Thank you. So let's set the pace for the conversation with some simple definitions so that everyone can follow through. What is nutrition, malnutrition, and then undernutrition? Because I chanced on some documents, and these are the key terms that we'll be using in the course of the conversation.
All right. When we talk about nutrition, basically, it is the food that people are eating to stay healthy, to grow and stay healthy and be able to perform the functions that the body needs to function to grow. And if we talk about malnutrition, we are talking the prefix mal is bad. So malnutrition, bad nutrition. And under bad nutrition, you could have overnutrition or undernutrition, where the overnutrition is you're too big or you're growing too big. So that's the overweight, obesity. Those are under the overnutrition. Then the undernutrition looks at people who are not growing well enough or not gaining weight enough. Okay. So basically, there's also micronutrient deficiency, like the vitamins and minerals that are lacking. So micronutrient deficiency is also a form of malnutrition.
So basically, the demand and supply between for energy and nutrition that the body needs and what we give it.
Exactly.
Good. So now that we have that out of the way, why is malnutrition a concern? Why does the Ghana Pediatric Society want to shed light on malnutrition?
We as a society are a national body that is interested in the health and well-being of children in Ghana. And when anybody gives birth or has a baby, what they want to do is to give their baby or their child their best. Come 50 years, come 80 years, 100 years, if the person lives to that age, everybody hopes that that person will be performing at the highest that they can perform. Yes. And we are interested in the development of Ghana. It's the children who are going to grow and who are going to take over.
Leaders.
Yes, they are the future leaders. So we have to give them whatever they need to be able to grow. In the advanced countries, a number of these things were prioritized many years ago. And that is why we see what we see in their leadership, in the quality of people that they have, in the development of the nations. That is why we see that. And all these things are intentional. Like, it doesn't just happen. People need to think about it. They need to plan it. And we are saying that 50 years from now, we want Ghana to be up there. And we can't be Ghana beyond aid if our children are not given the right start to be able to perform well. In their brain, mentally, they should be able to perform well, think well. Everybody has to be productive to be able to get us there, and we need to start now. That is why we are interested in doing this now.
I think that also explains why the World Health Organization is saying that nutrition is a single, most important health risk to global health, because it cuts across your mental health, your physical well-being. Right. So you mentioned Ghana. What exactly is the Ghana story as it stands now? What are the statistics? Where do we stand in terms of pediatric nutrition?
It's quite broad, and I'm hoping that Echo can help us. But so averagely, we are looking at about 50%. So we looked at the Ghana Demographic Health Survey. There are areas where you have over 50% of children being anemic, meaning that their HBs are low. HB below 11 gram per DL, that is low, and that has an effect on their intelligence, their ability to even function. So that's a problem. If you want the IQ or the intelligence of the children to be high, then their HBs have to be at good levels. It can affect their development, their ability to understand things, even the potential to fight with other children will increase if they are malnourished, or their chances or risk of fighting with other children, because they just don't understand the things that they should understand. So that is one. Now, the undernutrition, so those who are not gaining weight adequately, is also a problem. If you go to some of the villages or some of the areas where the socio-economic status of the parents is low, you may find that many of the children there are not gaining weight as they are supposed to. If you come to Accra, let's say some of the areas typically where you know that slum areas, or the fathers are not gainfully employed or not having much of an income, you tend to see that also. Let's say for those places, you may see about 3 out of 5 children being malnourished. And I'm hoping that we can get the GDHS statistics.
So before we even get to that, why do you think that it is only poor or where economically challenged communities or people who experience this? Because you mentioned that when you go to communities where the parents are not well to do,
yes,
that's where you see a lot of children being malnourished. Is it a case of poverty is a huge factor to the malnutrition of these children in these areas? Or are there socioeconomic reasons that cut across the entire country, that causes malnutrition?
We'll pick the 2 different types that we talked about, the undernutrition and the overnutrition. So where children are not gaining weight adequately because they are not getting enough food, and where they are eating too much and they are becoming overweight or obese. So in the scenario of those who are not getting enough food, it is commoner amongst people of low socioeconomic status. So where the family income is not much, you may find that, because then they are more likely to go and buy, let's say, mori for cocoa or for banku. So you may see a huge ball of kenke or a huge ball of banku, and you may not see
fish.
You may not even see fish. Not even.
Let me tell you an interesting story. So I got my first degree in Winneba, University of Education, and I stayed near the beach. There was a family right behind us, and every morning you hear the woman shouting and say, "Akola ndina mbebre," And I'm thinking, "Akola ndina mbebre." That is so wrong. It's a misconception. They rather need more nutrients and proteins than we do. I just wanted to say, because you mentioned that, that happens.
It's a very good point that you have raised too. So the ignorance may be a part, and in a number of these homes, what happens is that the man gets served first, and the bigger of the portion of the protein in the soup or in the stew goes to the man. Meanwhile, by this age, the man has already really got whatever they need, and all this extra just gives them a huge pot belly and increases their risk of diabetes, hypertension, high lipids or high cholesterol in the body and all that. So we would advocate that in the home, parents should ensure that they prioritize the needs, the nutritional needs of their children. Even if there's not enough money in the home, the adult is old enough, or they are already old, and it's the children who need it to be able to grow and develop. So they should be served first if possible, and the portion of the protein, the fruits and the vegetables should be good for them to be able to grow well. Now, ignorance is one bit. You have mentioned it nicely. Even for undernutrition, you may have a family which is well-to-do, but if they are making the wrong choices in terms of the food for the child may also become undernourished. Or if they don't have time to supervise the feeding of the child may be undernourished, even though they can afford to buy the food that the child needs. So that's like one side. And now everybody is saying Ghana is hard, and we all have seen that Ghana is hard. But let us do our bit. The little that we can do for our children, let us try and prioritize them when it comes to sharing the family meal. At every meal, they should get the best that can be given. Now, if we go to the obesity or the overnutrition, it tends to be more common here in our environment in Ghana amongst children who come from wealthier families.
Yes. Rich kids, I mean, I'm not generalizing, but most rich kids I know are fat. Please go on.
Yeah, and the reason is this, outside in the advanced countries, is usually the junk food is really cheap. So people who are of lower socioeconomic statuses, like who are poor, are likely to go to some of these malls to get this junk food. Exactly. Pizza, exactly. They are more likely to, because they are cheap. $1 or so. America, $1 is not much. But here, if you convert, then it becomes a lot. But so they are more likely to buy those ones. But here, it is the rich who are going for these foods because in our environment, they are more expensive. And you can also sort of rationalize it that all these things are imported into the country, or majority of them are imported into the country. And if people want to get them, then they have to pay a bit more for it. So the rich are able to afford these, and the children are eating and eating, sometimes overeating too, because there's not much supervision. So the food becomes a form of comfort for them. They are sitting behind the television for hours on end, chewing popcorn, drinking soda.
Even with adults.
Yes.
Comfort eating or stress eating. When you are experiencing any sort of emotional upheaval, you want to just put things in your mouth to ease your situation. But yes.
Yes. So that is why we see the obesity more, or being overweight more, in the rich than in the poor. But again, both can apply in both places. So if you have somebody who is poor and the person is feeding the child mostly carbohydrates, but the child is also eating loads and loads and loads of these carbohydrates, the child can also become big. The child is getting big, but does not have the kind of nutrition that they need. So yes, they are getting big because they have excess energy, and that energy is being stored as fat in the body. But they may not be getting the proteins, they may not be getting the iron, which will go into the body to help build the HB, build the muscle, build the strength and all that. So those are things that we should be aware of. Then the choice of fruits and vegetables. In our parts, people are not eating as much of the fruits and vegetables as we should eat. If you have a plate of food, about a quarter of it should be vegetables, and then less than a quarter should be fruit. I mean, it doesn't have to be all on that plate, but for your meal, for let's say lunch or breakfast or even dinner, that is how you should look at it, with the grains or the carbohydrates being also a little under a quarter, and then the protein being around a quarter too for the meals. And the vegetables and the fruits, they give us the vitamins, they give us the minerals also that we need for these children to grow well. And here, those are also not cheap. So as we are doing this advocacy, we are talking to the government, we are talking to all the key stakeholders. We are talking about Ghana Beyond Aid. This cannot happen if we are importing everything that we need to use in the country. We have a lot of land in the country. We have a lot of people, young people who are energetic and who are willing to work. These people could go in the farm, get us the food, and make us we can sustain ourselves. We can sustain the food that we need. Why do we need to import so much? There's this tribe. I don't know if you've heard of the tribe, the offals. Ghana is importing so much of it. Why do we have to do that? How much nutrition does that give? So we need to educate ourselves and intentionally groom ourselves and make conscious decisions about what we are eating as a people and what we are giving to our children.
A lot of the things you're saying now comes down to awareness or advocacy. Yes. To what extent do you think that the state of our healthcare infrastructure, or institutions like the Ghana Pediatric Society, going out to make sure that people are well informed about these issues, to what extent do you think that the health infrastructure we have in the country impede the processes, the smooth processes of these information dissemination activities?
I think that as a country, we are trying. I won't say we have arrived or we have reached where we want to get to, but we are trying. And I commend the efforts of the Ghana Health Service, Ministry of Health. There's still a lot more that we can do. If we talk about nutrition for children, it's not just like a Ministry of Agriculture. Everything is interconnected. So the leadership in the country is really key for things to work very well. If we say parents should give their children good food, what it also means is that parents should be in the position to afford good food.
Yes.
You get it? So it's really interconnected, and we need the country to really pay attention to this for us and prioritize the needs of the children. We, the Pediatric Society of Ghana, we a lot of education, stakeholder engagements and all that, and we will continue. However, leadership at different levels. So assuming that you're a school owner, you have a role to play, because if in your canteen or the food that you are serving to the children in the school is not good enough, or it's not balanced, or it's not healthy, then that's a problem. Sometimes parents will complain that in the house the children don't like eating, but when they go to school they will often eat because their peers are eating. And so at every point in time we should be able to offer the children the very best wherever they are, whether they are at home, whether they are at school, whether they've gone out for a picnic or wherever. We should encourage them. And there's also that bit of the branding of our local foods. Our local foods are good, they are nutritious and all. We need to try and project them as a country. You see, so here again, the interconnectedness. The government, the Ministry of Tourism, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Agriculture, all these things together, we need to try and see how we can package the things that we have here in Ghana. Instead of all these big fast food joints that are selling junk food, is it possible to package our local food such that your kontomire, very healthy kontomire,
appealing enough that you want to grab a bite on the go at any point. Yeah.
And the children also get interested because now they see that those are what are the foods that are trending. You know children, adolescents and how they make their decisions. So we need to actively try and project our local foods because they are healthy. That's one. And we have all the vegetables, we have all the fruits. It doesn't have to be something imported before it is good enough for the children or because it is healthy. And if we are talking about dollar coming down and all that, pound coming down, then we are talking about importation, looking at what we are bringing in. So what do we have here and how can we use them to improve the health and well-being of the children in Ghana? Exclusive breastfeeding, very important for the first 6 months of life. We strongly advocate for that. During the complementary feeding phase, we said that every family food that is given in the home, the children can eat. Sometimes people are thinking, oh, do I have to go and buy this bottled food or canned food? All imported, So at every stage, we have an opportunity to improve the health and well-being of our children. That's one. But we also have an opportunity to improve our situation as Ghanaians in terms of our economy by some of the choices that we make. And there are different government agencies and they all have different roles to play. We talk about problems with canned tomatoes and all that. Every year we have so much tomatoes, some going rotten. We have so much pineapples. The fruits come in season. Out there, they would be thinking about how to preserve these to be able to be available all year round. So we are a bit behind in our thinking in some of these aspects, especially the systems, and everything has to work together, and we need a leadership that will really push for some of these things to happen because we really have everything that the children need.
You say children a lot. What age range are you talking about when you say children? Or what is the key period that nutrition plays a vital role in the development or formation of a child? What are the age ranges that we should be looking at that is more critical?
That's a great question. Now we are battling with deaths in children under 5 years, and that is a critical window or a critical period, especially also the first 2 years of life. So within this period, we need the children to be giving all the nutrition that they need so that they can grow, their brains can grow well, and they will develop well generally. And if we talk about under 5 mortality, infant mortality and all that, the nutrition affects the children. It is if they are well nourished, they are going to build their immunities. They are less likely to die from maybe malaria or pneumonia or an infection compared to a child who is undernourished or not well nourished. So that is one of the reasons why we are very interested in this. We all want to support to achieve the SDG goals. We all want our children to thrive and to do very well in the country. We want the country to be in a very good place come 50 years from now, beyond aid. Not talking about going beyond aid, but actually being beyond aid. And this is the time for us to put some of these key strategies in place to get our children to grow, to become those adults who can get it done.
Okay. So now how do you identify, or how can you tell, if we have those watching us, I'm sure have kids in the house, how can you tell that your child is leaning toward malnutrition, or how do you identify the problem when it starts so that you nip it in the bud?
Let me begin by using the Road to Health chart. You know, when the pregnant women go for the antenatal care, they are given their maternal and child record books now. So the pregnancy side is there and the child side is there. And thankfully, the growth charts for the children is put in there. So once from birth, they will come for review in hospital, and we will be able to tell how their weights are doing and all.
Okay.
And so once they start like plateauing, or instead of the curve going up, it becomes flat, then we know there's a problem. So our public health nurses are able to help us to pick it up very early. And it could even be before 6 months of age. If it is falling below the line that they started with, then you know that there's a problem. The curves have to be either going up between -2 and +2. They have to be going up, not coming down. So if it's coming down, that's also a problem, and we are able to pick it up. The other thing, so there are late signs which we won't want to see. So if you see your child's hair color changing to becoming brown, sometimes you talk to the mothers and they say, oh, maybe brown, you know, but no, that's not always the case. African child, your hair is black, your hair color is black, not light brown, and then the texture becomes very light and it becomes.
But that is silky. Not in any way saying that everyone whose hair is not black or as black has a problem, is it?
Typically, it should be. It should be black. It should be as black, not turning brown.
My hair is not black. Oh. Please go on.
I'll go and talk to your mother.
Yes, please.
All right. Okay. So those are some of the things. Then the weight. If you see that, some of the mothers will actually tell you that, oh, like my child has become light, you know, and that tells you that the child is actually losing weight, or the pants that the child usually wear suddenly it's become more loose and they need, you know, to maybe size down or something, when it's not that they were fat and they are trying to lose weight or something. And then there's also another measure that we use, the mid-upper arm circumference, a tape that we use to measure the circumference of the upper arm. So that's this area. We'll measure it and then interpret it accordingly. If it's really low, then we know that there's a problem. So all these help us. Sometimes the mother is also able to say that, hey, like the conjunctiva has become whitish or pale. So mothers know that the under the eye, under the conjunctiva should be red or pinkish. So when it becomes whitish, then you know that the child is pale. There are even times when the child's lips will even become very pale, under the tongue will become very pale. So
we have the statistics on your screens now. Doctor, do you want to take us through that?
So I think this is really describing the stunting, and if we say stunting, it means that the child is shorter than they should be, and there are standards for that. We have WHO growth standards that we use to tell that if it's below the -2 Z-score, then there's a problem. If it's within the -2 +2, then those are fine. And if the child is wasted, it means that the child has lost the height, or is not gaining in height as the child should, and it's not also gaining weight as a child should. And usually it means that it's chronic malnutrition, or malnutrition that has gone on for a long time.
Okay.
Yes.
Wasting.
Yeah, so that's the wasting that we just spoke about. And yeah, so there is the weight, then the height, then the two combined, yes, and then the overweight and all that. So basically those are just to describe what. Yeah.
Now, what do you do when you notice that your child is malnourished? Immediately, what do you do? At what point do you run to the clinic, to the hospital?
If the system is working properly,
I like how you started,
yes, these children should be picked up. As in, mother is going for the weighing clinic, which is an intervention. The Ghana Health Service has established this for many years. If mother is going with father, or father is going with the child to the weighing center or the child welfare clinics, then all these things will be picked up very early, and then interventions will be initiated. If the child needs to be giving any supplements, that is done. But often it is the education around the feeding, and the weight loss or the failure to gain weight adequately often starts around the weaning period. That's around the 5 months. Some start early, but it's supposed to be from 6 months that you start adding on other feeds, the family food. So sometimes that is when the babies start losing weight, or they start not gaining weight as they should gain. And so once it is picked up, then the interventions can be started from the clinic. There are a few of the mothers who may not even be going for these wellness checks. They may just stay at home for different reasons. Some of them, they won't go because they don't have that white cloth that the mothers will show off at the welfare clinic, which is also a problem. But once things are working well, it is picked up early, and counseling on nutrition for the child is initiated. If more needs to be done, that's also done. There are times when they are not gaining weight, maybe because the child has a congenital heart disease or has a problem. And once we identify all these, we are able to initiate the appropriate interventions to ensure that the child does well. But it centers around the nutrition, or what the child is taking in.
Okay, you said if the systems are working well. So at what role does government or governmental policies play in ensuring that our children are safe, are well nourished, and become the future leaders that? Are there already existing measures in place from the government?
Yes. So the measures, through the Ghana Health Service, that is the child welfare clinics that the children are sent to by their mothers and fathers in the first, let's say, 5 years for their checks, and then the immunization. So these are already well established. The other bits, improving the economic status of the mothers and all that, those ones, definitely government has a key role to play. But many of the key things have already been put in place, and we need to do what we can to support the systems, encourage the mothers to keep going. But it's also very important at this time because of the economic situation in the country. I know that things are hard, not just in Ghana, everywhere things are a bit harder, and we need to see what we can do as a nation to improve the lot of the members or the citizens of the country.
Are you collaborating with any non-governmental organizations, or are there any collaborations currently that are helping you, charter this course?
So the Ghana Health Service is supporting us.
Okay.
Yes, and then the Ministry of Health is also supporting. We have a few other partners, the VIU, Pediatric Epilepsy Training, BPNA, they are supporting, because we'll have some pre-conferences. Africa Health Supplies, we're looking at UNICEF, WHO to see. Yes, so far, so good. There's a lot that can be done, and we are committed to doing our bit while we still can to improve the situation for the children in Ghana.
Well, thank you so much, Doctor. Your final words before we wrap this up.
The AGSF is happening in Ho. That's the 1st to 3rd of February 2023. And as always, is going to be about the children.
What is AGSM?
Annual General Scientific Meeting.
Good.
Yes, so it's like a big meeting for all members and stakeholders to join us to plan for the rest of the years and see how we can improve the well-being of the child in Ghana. Just to also add on that anybody who has children in your home, when it comes to mealtime or even before mealtime, you need to consider the needs of the child.
First.
Even if it is not your child. If the child eats well, grows well, becomes somebody in future, they'll definitely remember you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We were having a conversation. We just finished a conversation with Dr. Hilda Boy, who is a pediatrician at Kolebu Teaching Hospital and also the president of the Pediatric Society of Ghana. And she shed light on child malnutrition and the causes, the effects, and how we can avoid that. Stay tuned. There's more coming up next with Benjamin Akapo.